Inside your body is a biological recycle button known as autophagy. This mechanism clears away aging, damaged cells and reverses gut inflammation by dissolving cellular debris into clean energy. For most people, this mechanism stays dormant. The modern standard of eating 3 meals a day plus snacks is an evolutionary anomaly that keeps the body in a state of constant digestion, suppressing this natural cleanup. Ancient cultures, however, maintained very different rhythms. The Romans typically consumed only 1 substantial meal per day, often around 4 in the afternoon, believing that frequent eating was fundamentally unhealthy. High meal frequency and the modern breakfast only became standardized during the Industrial Revolution. This shift was designed to fuel factory labor during the long hours of the early morning. By adopting industrial eating rhythms, humans inadvertently deactivated the ancestral, built-in cellular repair systems that previously optimized survival. Realigning our internal circadian clocks is the first step toward reactivation. This requires a protocol called time-restricted eating. The protocol is specific. You need a continuous fasting window of 14 to 16 hours. Crucially, the daily start time must remain strictly consistent. Consistency is mandatory because the gut-brain axis relies on strict circadian rhythmicity to coordinate its various biological functions. To prevent an insulin response, you must consume 0 calories during the fasting block. Only pure water, black brewed coffee, or plain tea is permitted. At the 12-hour mark, you hit a major biological milestone. As tracked on this timeline, the liver completely depletes its stored glycogen reserves. Once these reserves are exhausted, the body undergoes a metabolic switch. Fat cells begin releasing free fatty acids, which the liver converts into ketone bodies, specifically beta-hydroxybutyrate, to provide fuel for the brain. Crossing this 12-hour threshold forces the body to shift from an energy-storing mode into a fat-burning state. Moving the timeline forward into the 16-hour zone, cellular deprivation reaches its peak. This shift is regulated by mTOR, a nutrient-sensing pathway that promotes cell growth whenever we consume food. At 16 hours of fasting, mTOR activity shuts down, causing the AMPK repair pathway to surge upward. These elevated AMPK levels serve as the biological trigger that initiates autophagy. During this phase, oxidative waste, senescent cells, and rogue proteins are identified and broken down to be used for emergency energy. This cellular starvation is the biological prerequisite for profound systemic self-repair. These effects extend to the 100 trillion bacteria residing in your digestive tract. Eating randomly around the clock causes circadian misalignment, leading to dysbiosis and a compromised intestinal barrier. A 14 to 16-hour fast starves pathogenic bacteria of the sugar and nitrogen required to multiply. Depriving the gut of nutrients synchronizes the daily activity rhythms of protective bacterial strains, allowing them to flourish. This powerful process forces a true evolutionary reset of the microbial ecosystem, establishing a stable rhythm for the entire digestive tract. There is a final, fascinating clinical paradox. While fasting clears cellular junk, the fast itself does not rejuvenate the body. True regeneration, including stem cell self-renewal, occurs during the refeeding phase. Breaking the fast reactivates the mTOR pathway, shifting the body from repair back into growth. The incoming balance of macronutrients provides the raw materials required to replace old outlines and generate new, pristine cells. Ultimately, systemic regeneration depends on perfectly managing the precise timing between this cellular destruction and the construction phase that follows. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, modern life encourages us to keep our energy up. A protein bar in the car, a handful of almonds at the desk, a late-night snack on the couch. We have turned eating into a continuous, all-day activity. But eating multiple times a day is a recent behavior. The ancient Romans generally consumed 1 substantial meal, usually around 4 in the afternoon. To them, the idea of eating more than once per day was considered unhealthy. For centuries, cultural and monastic rules enforced these empty windows. Even the word breakfast was a literal instruction to break the night's fast. These structures guaranteed the body time away from food. By abandoning these enforced fasting windows, we have locked ourselves into a permanent anabolic state. Our bodies are constantly digesting and processing, with no time left for anything else. If you treat a machine as if it never needs to power down for maintenance, it will eventually fail. The human body follows that same logic. This biological vacuum of not eating provides the necessary downtime the body uses to maintain its internal systems. A 12 to 16-hour window without food initiates hormesis, a state of low-level biological stress that signals the body to improve its own resilience. This timeline shows what happens as the hours pass. By the 12-hour mark, your liver's glycogen stores are nearly empty. As that primary energy source disappears, a chemical byproduct called AMP begins to rise. Look at the inverse relationship. As cellular energy drops, this byproduct surges. When AMP hits a critical level, it acts as an internal alarm, activating a master energy-sensing protein called AMPK. AMPK is the cell's metabolic traffic cop. Realizing fuel is scarce, it immediately orders the cell to stop growing and start conserving energy. That sensation of an empty stomach is the outward sign of a highly programmed survival mode. Your cells are no longer focused on growth, they are focused on efficiency. To conserve that energy, AMPK shuts down mTOR, the specific biological pathway responsible for cellular growth and replication. With growth paused, the cell pivots to a recycling program called autophagy to find internal fuel. Autophagy is a process of self-cleaning. To survive, the cell hunts down its damaged organelles and misfolded proteins, dissolving them to use as spare parts. This cleanup triggers a cascade of benefits. Sirtuin proteins activate to repair DNA, while the cell bolsters its own antioxidant defenses. But the cellular cleanup is only half of the story. Research shows that metabolic health is driven by the completion of the full fasting refeeding cycle. This cyclical diagram shows the relationship. The fasting phase clears out the junk. Then, when you eat, the reintroduction of nutrients triggers stem cell self-renewal. The body uses that newly available food to replace the old debris with fresh tissue. Chronic grazing prevents the dismantling of old damaged cells, which means the regenerative refeed can never happen. Both halves of the cycle are necessary to rebuild the body. We can actively trigger this biological cycle by changing the frequency and timing of our meals. The first step is reducing meal frequency. Eating 6 small meals a day keeps the growth pathway constantly active. Moving to 2 or 3 distinct meals gives the body the window it needs to begin repairs. But when you eat those meals is just as important. Your organs have their own internal peripheral clocks that dictate how they process nutrients. This 24-hour dial shows our metabolic efficiency peaks in the morning and plummets late at night. Skipping breakfast but eating a heavy late-night meal fights your biology, increasing cardiovascular risk. Chronobiology protocols focus eating during morning and afternoon peaks, aligning your fast with sleep. By simply aligning infrequent meals with the sun and defending that overnight fast, you flip the biological switch from constant growth to active regeneration.